Welcome back to Indie Film Weekly for the week of April 3rd, 2026. I'm your host, Glen Reynolds. This week in theaters, we've got a New York character comedy where a laid-off guy lands a babysitting job that turns into a romantic mess with real consequences. We've got a near-future Brazilian journey where a 77-year-old woman refuses to be relocated and bolts into the Amazon with one last wish. And we've got a literary drama set in 1938 Algiers, where a man's emotional detachment becomes the real evidence on trial. On TVOD, I'm spotlighting a drama set in Japan where a grad student's suicide attempt is interrupted by the spirit of his twin, and the story becomes a countdown to cherry blossom season. And for our classic, we're going back to a 1991 Austin time capsule that moves through a city one conversation at a time. If you care about indie films, treat theaters like the first stop, not the last resort. Go while the showtimes are still there. This episode of Indie Film Weekly is brought to you by Circus Road Films, helping independent filmmakers find their audience since 2006. Learn more at circusroadfilms.com. Let's dive in. Our first indie film in theaters this week is Fantasy Life. Directed by Matthew Shear, it follows Sam, a paralegal who gets laid off and suddenly has too much time to think. He stumbles into babysitting work for his psychiatrist, watching her 3 granddaughters, while their family life spins in a dozen directions at once. Sam is anxious, polite, and a little lost. The job gives him structure, and it drops him into a household with money, therapy language, and constant adult negotiation. The center of the film is the relationship that develops between Sam and Diane, the girl's mother, an actress whose marriage is shaky and whose patience is running thin. Amanda Peet plays Diane with that mix of charm and impatience you recognize instantly. Holland Taylor plays the psychiatrist, and she's delightfully exacting. Sam is not a hero swooping in. He's a guy learning how to be useful and learning how fast helping can get complicated. The comedy comes from awkward timing and honest discomfort. It's also a New York movie in the best way. Conversations happen in cramped apartments, on sidewalks, and in the small, quiet pockets between obligations. One fun note, this won the Narrative Audience Award at South by Southwest, which tracks. It's built for people who like smart character messes and want to laugh without feeling mean. Our second indie film in theaters this week is The Blue Trail. Directed by Gabriel Mascaro, it's set in the near future Brazil where the government sells comfort for seniors by moving them into distant colonies. Teresa is 77, still working, still stubborn, and suddenly told she qualifies because the age cutoff has been lowered. Her daughter is ready to comply and take guardianship. Teresa is not. With only days before relocation, she decides to disappear in the Amazon instead, chasing one simple wish. She wants to take her first airplane ride. Denise Weinberg plays her with grit and mischief, like someone who refuses to let her life get filed away. The journey becomes a boat trip taken in secret, with Teresa moving as an illicit passenger and running into people who are also navigating rules that keep tightening. Rodrigo Santoro appears along the way, adding warmth and unpredictability to the trip. The film keeps the dystopia grounded. It's not about gadgets. It's about policy, paperwork, and family pressure turning into a cage. Mascaro shoots the river and the forest like a living system that can swallow you or carry you, depending on the day. This won the Silver Bear Grand Jury Prize at Berlin, and you can feel why. It's a rebellion story, but it's also a late-life adventure with real humor and bite. Our last indie film in theaters this week is The Stranger. Directed by Francois Ozon, it's the new adaptation of Albert Camus' novel set in Algiers in 1938. Meursault is a quiet office worker who moves through life with a flat affect that unsettles everyone around him. The film opens with him attending his mother's funeral without shedding a tear. The next day, he begins a casual affair with Marie, a co-worker, and he slips back into routine like nothing happened. Their time together is ordinary. Swims, a movie, small talk, and no promises. Then a neighbor, Raymond Sintez, pulls him into a situation that feels pretty at first and dangerous by degrees. That chain of choices leads to a blisteringly hot day on a beach and a violent turning point. From there, the story becomes a trial where the court seems more interested in judging Meursault's character than the facts of what occurred. Benjamin Voisin plays Meursault with a blankness that reads as honesty and sometimes as provocation. Ozon keeps the atmosphere tight, sun, sweat, and social rules that feel suffocating even before the verdict arrives. The film premiered in competition in Venice, and it's the kind of literary adaptation that still feels immediate, because it's really about how society reacts when we refuse to perform the expected emotions. So in theaters this week, that's Fantasy Life, The Blue Trail, and The Stranger. Our spotlight indie film on TVOD this week is Gaijin. Directed by Mark Chamberlain, it starts with an American grad student in Japan who has reached a breaking point. He travels to a legendary temple with a plan to end his life. Right as he is about to do it, the spirit of his dead twin appears and interrupts the attempt. The twin does not offer a tidy pep talk. He issues a challenge: hang on until cherry blossom season. That one condition turns the story into a countdown, into a test of whether the lead can tolerate being alive long enough for anything to change. The film plays grief as something physical. It's heavy, stubborn, and weirdly repetitive, like your mind keeps looping the same memory until you finally hear a new note in it. Along the way, the movie finds pockets of humor and surprise, because that is often how survival works in real life. It also uses Japan as more than scenery. The travel, the language barriers, and the rituals around place and time all press on the main character's choices. If you want a character-driven drama that takes mental health seriously without turning it into a lecture, this is worth the rental. You can rent it on Apple TV. Our indie film classic this week is Slacker, celebrating its 35th anniversary. Directed by Richard Linklater, it's a day in Austin where the camera keeps handing off from one person to the next like a relay race. There isn't a traditional plot. The movie just drifts, starting at a bus station and then slipping into conversations, half-baked theories, and passionate opinions from people who have time to kill and plenty to say. One guy is obsessed with conspiracy culture. Another is chasing some oddly specific piece of pop trivia. Someone is pitching a book. Someone's dodging a job. Someone is mid-argument about art, politics, or the end of the world. The point is the texture. A whole city of eccentrics and thinkers and talkers, all connected by sidewalks, coffee, and chance encounters. Linklater shot it on 16mm with friends and locals, and it still feels like you're walking through a living time capsule of early 90s Austin before its weirdness got branded and packaged. It's also one of those films that quietly taught a generation that you could make something real without permission. If you love movies that are basically a hangout, but still have a sharp point of view, this is a perfect rewatch. It still plays fresh. You can watch it on HBO Max or for free on Tubi. And that wraps it for the April 3rd, 2026 edition of Indie Film Weekly. If you want to help the show, do the 4 things that actually matter. Subscribe so it lands automatically. Share it with a friend who's always hunting for something new. Rate it so the apps take it seriously. Then leave a short review. Even one sentence helps. Until next week, keep it scrappy, keep it open-minded, and keep it indie.